Hey folks, how's it going? Dr.Spin. So I've decided to go ahead and try to put out there this part 10 of the Jellyfish Family Tree project that I started way back in 2012, I believe, is when I put the first post up. And as you'll see probably during the course of this, I think and this particular post ended up kind of being more relevant than even I thought whenever I was thinking about it. So just to give you some background on this, the setting for this particular post is about 2010. My wife and I just moved down to Austin, and I didn't have any kids at the time, so I was trying to get out and see some music when I could. So I kind of would keep my eyes open for things that I wanted to see. And I noticed that Jason Falkner was playing a solo set at the Mohawk one night. And that seemed like a really amazing opportunity. You see, I'd seen Jellyfish many, many years before in 1993 at Liberty Lunch whenever I was living in Austin. But at that time, Jason Falkner was no longer playing with the group. He had left, and Eric Dover was playing guitar and singing backups for Jellyfish. And I was a big fan of both of his solo albums. His first album, Author Unknown, when it came out, it's almost every bit as equal to the first Jellyfish album in terms of quality. It's an amazing album that I really have never gotten tired of, and the more I listen to it, the more I like it. It's been years now, and every time I come back to it, I'm amazed by its kind of depth. And its follow-up, Can You Still Feel, is also a very good album. It's very nice, expansive songwriting on there. It feels like Jason Falkner was kind of stretching his legs as far as complexity went, but it also felt a little bit overthought. It didn't quite capture that same spontaneous feel as the first album. But in any case, I thought both of those albums were very ingenious, and I kind of had kept up with him as a co-writer for many artists that kind of formed a lot of branches on that Jellyfish Family Tree post. But I'd actually never seen Jason Falkner play. So it was an opportunity I really couldn't pass up. So I went down to the Mohawk that night, and Jason Falkner came out and played not just a solo set, but a solo set, as in he had no backing band. It was just him and a guitar, and he ran through a bunch of songs from his catalog, and it was amazing, an arresting experience that a guy can come out there with just a guitar and his songs and really capture a crowd, especially when probably a lot of the people in that crowd didn't really know his music, as you'll come to see. But those of us that did really appreciated his performances and the depth that he tried to plumb in his catalog. The biggest gift that night that he gave to us was he came out and he played The Man I Used to Be, the Jellyfish songs, the lead track from the first Jellyfish album, all by himself. I do have a video that exists of that exact same performance, and I'm going to let you check it out, but I'm going to give you the heads up. It's by a 2010 iPhone. The sound quality is terrible, but for the sake of capturing the moment, it was there and I saw this. This is the exact performance I saw. And of course, like a lot of recordings during that time, it sounded like somebody, taped a microphone to Tarzan's chest and lit him on fire. But you get the picture. It was an amazing show. So I was blown away by the whole performance, and was kind of starstruck to watch Jason Falkner just kind of walk out in the crowd and talking to people. And of course, I couldn't have possibly approached him. What could I say to the guy? But I did go over to his swag booth and was extremely pleased to see that he had his third solo album, I'm Okay, You're Okay, there for sale, and I bought it on the spot. I'm Okay, You're Okay, up to that point, had really only been available as a Japanese import release, and so it was extremely expensive to purchase, and I wanted to purchase it for a long time, just kept hoping that it would come up as a domestic release. And so it was very fulfilling to be able to go see Jason Falkner at the show and then directly purchase a copy of this CD from him in his swag booth. And it turned out that I'm Okay, You're Okay is a great release that fits very nicely between his two other solo albums in terms of its quality. Nothing will probably ever be able to touch Author Unknown that he will release as far as the place that it holds in my sort of musical pantheon. But I will say that I think it's a little bit more like that album than Can You Still Feel, although I like Can You Still Feel. Again, his ability, his penchant for taking a very simple melodic idea and supporting it with very crafty, very clever harmonic ideas is just immediately right out of the gate shows up on that first track on the album. And in getting ready for this post, I have gained a new, deeper appreciation for I'm Okay, You're Okay that I don't think I really even had at the time that I first got the album. Some amazing work on there that I think holds up as far as Jason Falkner's work goes. Little did I realize that in 2010, Jason Falkner had produced Daniel Johnston's album, Is and Always Was. He was acting as Daniel Johnston's musical director during these performances. So he was in the corner of the stage and he was sort of directing the band behind him. Not knowing much about Daniel Johnston walking into the performance, it kind of left me with a bit of cognitive dissonance, you know. Clearly, there were these moments of brilliance during his performance. You could definitely see what it was that so many people liked about him.
Records of rock and roll. Look out!
But I had very little connection with his music at the time. I didn't know any of his songs. So when the band performed a Beatles song, I get by with a little help from my friends. He jumped around in the form a lot. He would sing 2 choruses in a row, maybe half a verse, and then jump back to the chorus. And Jason Falkner was in the corner, kind of directing the band, trying to follow him and keep it going in the right direction, so that people in the audience wouldn't quite notice how erratic Daniel Johnston's performance was going. And as it went through the performance, it was obvious that he was having some anxiety with being on stage. He was very visibly shaking, and there was a point at which he was spilling water on the side of the stage. And it's this curious thing whenever you see a performance with a performer who you know has had a history with mental illness and with struggles and things like this, where you feel like you want to support him, but there's also this kind of weird uncomfortable sense of spectacle that goes along with it, that you don't know which part you're there to see. So I walked away from the Daniel Johnston concert having a lot of respect for the guy, but also feeling a little bit of compassion for him for the struggles that he had gone through to that point. So needless to say that I didn't really run out and buy any of Daniel Johnston's albums, but I certainly was curious about the one that Jason Falkner produced. And his recent passing a couple weeks ago kind of forced my hand to go out and get Is and Always Was. From what I've seen on the album, Jason Falkner takes no writing credits whatsoever on the album, but his thumbprint is everywhere on the album. And to be honest, Jason Falkner's penchant for taking very simple ideas and putting them on top of a more advanced harmonic framework is a really good match for his work with Daniel Johnston. Daniel Johnston's songs are very simple, they're very straightforward, and that's part of their appeal. So Jason Falkner really was able to, on this album, take those simple ideas and put them in an entirely different place. Now, I don't have any of other Daniel Johnston albums. I'm not an expert on his work whatsoever. But it seems to me that Jason Falkner's feel opens up a lot of Daniel Johnston's work on this album and gives it a much wider frame, I think, than I would have expected. Some of the music even kind of gets almost into some Flaming Lips territory, which gives it a very clear pop framework, but with a real kind of almost psychedelic feel to it.
Ride in my car, traveling far, just to see you. I knew nothing about it, destiny's star guided me to you. I took a look in your face, I fell right in place. I was so in love with you, babe. You had me right from the start. I had a feel in my heart when you walked through that door, girl.
The album's quite good, and I may be reviewing it more as I go along. But it was a good find and a good fit for kind of like wrapping up this 10th part of the Jellyfish family tree, because many of the Jellyfish members have gone out and collaborated, as we saw with the last post with Andy Sturmer, with other artists. And this was another example of Jellyfish member going on and kind of putting their thumbprint on something beyond, just their own solo work. And I know that, since if you're a Jason Falkner fan or a Jellyfish fan, you know that even though I'm kind of wrapping this 10th part up here with this part 10, with me seeing Jason Falkner play The Man I Used to Be live on stage, there's been several albums that I've gotten into that Jellyfish's members are involved with. There was Roger Joseph Manning's other second solo album, Catfish Dynamite. There's also the TV Eyes album. I got that one just a few years ago, kind of another collaboration between Jason Falkner and Roger Joseph Manning that kind of takes the 80s feel and turns it on its ear, kind of like what happened with Imperial Drag in the 70s and with Jellyfish in the 60s. Just different era of pop music that they sort of framed their songwriting in. All those albums are great, but those things I'm going to, kind of take as they come. And if I put posts on them, I'm not really connected to the Jellyfish family tree. I think I've already proved my point, which is that the seed of that band in 1993 really had a much broader impact behind the scenes on such a broad variety of pop music since then, that their impact, even though they weren't really a huge hit back then, they never really got the credit they deserved at the time. They certainly have had their presence felt as an undercurrent throughout music history since the music history of pop music or popular music on the indie side since then. So, of course, it goes without saying that I want you to go back and check out Jellyfish, but certainly check out Jason Falkner, and I'm Okay, You're Okay is a great disc that I think is a good example, and hopefully not his last solo album ever. And then also the Daniel Johnston album, Isn't Always Was, is a really great find that I'm looking forward to delving into more as we get closer to the end of this year. All right. So again, thanks again for following me on this one. I'll pick something up next week with something a little more current. But until then, I'll catch you guys on the flip side.